Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Remainder and factor theorems, lecture number 4, type 4 question. In type 4 question, there will be two unknown constants with two conditions will be given. Hint, how to solve this type of question. You should form two equations and solve them simultaneously. You can form the equations with the help of the given conditions. This is the way to get the values of the constants in type 4 question. This is an example of this type of question, type 4 question. Given this polynomial 2x cubed plus 5x squared plus ax plus b. This polynomial has two unknown constants a and b, and this polynomial has a factor 2x plus 1, and this polynomial leaves a remainder 9 when it is divided by x plus 2. So these are two conditions, and with the help of these two conditions we will form two equations as, according to 2x plus 1 condition, we can write p of minus half to 0. This is the condition number 1, and with the help of this second condition x plus 2, we can write p of minus 2 to 9. This is condition number 2. With the help of these two conditions, we will get the values of a and b. We'll do the second part later. We will first focus on the first part. Let's start the solution. According to condition number 1, p of minus half to 0, we have this equation a 2b plus 2. And with this condition p of minus 2 to 9, we have the second equation, minus 2a plus b equals to 5. Now these are two equations. We will solve them simultaneously to get the values of a and b. So by solving 1 and 2, we have a negative 4, b negative 3. This is the way to solve the type 4 question. Now we are going to solve the second part, which is factorize p of x completely. For that we will use the long division method. We will not discuss the way how to use long division, as we already have discussed this method in detail. So this is the solution of the polynomial. We did this to get this quotient, because to factorize the polynomial we must have the quotient. Now we will factorize this quotient. The factorized form of this quotient is x plus 3 and x minus 1. The question was factorize p of x completely. That means write p of x as the product of its factors. So there are three factors. The first factor was given, 2x plus 1 was given, and we found the second factor and third factor from the quotient. So this is the way to write the answer. Now one very important fact in regarding this type 4 question: what if we had two linear factors in this question? If we had two linear factors in this question, then first for this part 2, first take the product of those factors to get a quadratic factor before using the long division method. That means you cannot use long division method unless you have a quadratic factor from those linear factors. This is an example. If we had 2x plus 1 and x plus 2 linear factors of p of x, then for part 2, we should find the product of these two factors. We should take the product of these two factors to get a quadratic factor for the long division. I mean, it's compulsory to take the product of the linear factors to get a quadratic factor for the long division, like this. I mean, we must have quadratic factor here from those two linear factors for the long division. So this is very important. If two linear factors were given, then we must had to find a quadratic factor for the long division. Now this is the last concept of this chapter. So in this concept, we have to show p of x can never be negative. This means we have to show p of x is either greater or equal to 0. In other words, you can say p of x can never be negative means p of x is either greater or equal to 0. Now this is the way to prove this. I mean, you need to consider both the quadratic factors separately, and then you have to find their discriminants. The discriminant of the first quadratic factor is -3, which is less than 0. Negative discriminant means the curve is above the x-axis. I mean, your p of x is positive. Negative discriminant means no real roots. No real roots means the entire curve is above the x-axis. So with respect to this discriminant, we can say p of x is positive, and according to this sketch, this is verified. Now consider the second quadratic factor. Now according to this factor, the discriminant is 0, which shows that the x-axis is tangent to the curve. This means p of x can either be equal to 0 or greater than 0. So by combining these two, by combining 1 and 2, we can say p of x can never be negative. This is we had to show. Now this chapter is over. You all need to focus on the practice now. The more you practice, you will get things perfectly. I mean, maths is a combination of practice, detailed concepts with regular practice. So please practice most of the questions from the worksheets or practice book. Allah Hafiz.